Today we're covering the setup and use of the Kine irrigation system by Softrain Irrigation at our homestead. So for the last year, we've been using the 4-pod farm pack by Kine here at the property for irrigation purposes. We've been using it for our high tunnel, our garden space, our orchard space, and our pasture space. And this year we increased the pod system by another 4, so we have a total of 8 hooked up to this. It initially was 250 feet long, now it's 500 feet long. We have 8 of the farm pods attached to this here, and they distribute water about 25 feet in all directions, and they're set up to be overlapping so that when you drag them around the property in the portable fashion, you're able to water whether you want to do a horseshoe shape, whether you want to do a straight shape, whether you want to snake it through your garden. It's super versatile when it comes to moving them around. I love irrigation systems. I love any system for the farm that are portable and they're kind of adaptable or flexible. With this system, you simply use a poly pipe, hook it into your water supply, whatever it would be, whether it's fixed, solar, a pump system, whatever you want to use it with, and you drag it around your property and use it. So having portable and flexible solutions are a great option for your homestead because it allows you to adapt during different seasons of the homestead's life. And it allows it to not be a fixed infrastructure that you're putting in place, because early on especially, it's nice to have flexibility and portability when you're setting up your homestead, because there's always things that might change through the process of figuring out how things are going to be set up at your property. So we're going to dive into the setup, how easy it is to set this up, the installation, use of the farm packs here at our homestead. This is how it comes delivered to your home. It comes on a pallet, or it just comes dropped to your location in this wrapped up cellophane packaging, and it keeps everything in the system. So it's nice and condensed. If you get multiple systems, you can get 3, 4, 5 and different combinations of these pod systems. We have 2 of the 4-pod systems. One is assembled working for us out here on the farm, and we're gonna go through the setup here today with this one. So this is what it looks like when you get it here right now. So the first thing you're gonna do when you get it is, I like to say very carefully, because I don't wanna be cutting things with a knife, but I'm just gonna cut into this and lift it up, and we're gonna expose the parts and pieces, which there aren't a ton of them, which is a good thing. But this is a fully assembled package, and then it has all the stuff inside of it. When I get the instructions and directions out of here. And then one of the first things that I like to do is get the parts and pieces out, and then get someone to help you roll the pipe out. And it's nice to do it on a warm day because it will help the pipe to kind of lose some of its memory and start to flatten out for you so that you can start measuring out your sequence and how you're going to set it up there. So we're going to pull these pods out of the way. They just have everything kind of tacked into place so you don't lose them. They've got the sprinkler heads with the bolts and everything in there, the cradle system, and the pod itself. So that's the pod right there. Depending on what system you get and the different attachments that you opt for, you're gonna get different connections for them. So you're just gonna get them all set off to the side here. But it comes with this kit here, which has more instructions in it. And then there's some actual tools that they give you, like a deep socket for it and a bit for your drill gun and stuff like that. We'll get into that in a minute here. So William's gonna help me. It helps to have 2 people. You're gonna lay out. It helps if you just tip it up so it uncoils for you without getting all messed up. Kine sends you the actual pipe that they have made for this. It's a stronger pipe than just your normal 1.25 inch pipe. And I'm gonna take and hold it up. And I'm gonna hold this piece here from the inside so it doesn't get tangled up. And then he just takes and pulls it and gets it laid out there. Like I said, it helps to have a little bit of heat for the sun, just to help it lose its memory real quick. Tug of war! And then it gives you, on here, they have a green line on it, which will help you with your your orientation of the line. So we're kind of getting it rolled out here because you want to keep it so it's not twisted, because it will help your Kline pods stay oriented the right way when you're installing it. So just keep that in mind in the future here. All right, so the first pack that I dive into and that I want to get into is the one that has the instructions and all the tools that come with it. So I'm going to take and cut that one open. And then your actual 2 tools that you want to have out here with you, they have a specialized bit for it that will keep it at the right depth for you when you're drilling. So that's with it. They have your tape for the end fittings, and then your 2 different bits for your socket sets there. The first thing you want to do once you get this line laid out and untwisted and start to get it oriented is you want to take your pieces off of here and put them into one of the bags just to keep them all together and get these things slid on, because if you start putting pieces on here, you don't want to have your fittings and adapters getting in the way of you pulling these through the system. So the first thing you want to do is get this slid through your pipe so that you can move the pods around instead of having to run them through the whole system. So we're going to unscrew the heads from inside here, and we're going to grab an extra bag, and we're just going to keep our pieces together because losing stuff in the grass always stinks. So that's the head, and that's the nuts there. And we're just going to grab an extra one of these bags and make sure we keep them together. So we're going to grab these. We're going to slide them down on here. And just keep them in line so they're on the system and we can start getting things oriented. All right, then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to grab a tape measure and you're going to measure 25 feet off of your end to the first pod. And the reason you do that is because our pods, we have them spaced. You can space them as close as 40 feet apart. You can spread them out to 50 feet apart because the throw on the sprinkler is about 50 feet. So we spread ours out. We don't have a ton of overlap on ours because we're moving them around the pasture enough. But if you want a little bit of overlap, you can put them at 48 feet apart and whatnot. So if you do 25 feet from your end, your first end, you want to do that because if you connect 2 of them together, you'll know that you have the 50 feet difference between those 2 of them. So the point of it is you have to think about 2 of them being joined together and 2 pods being on opposite ends of those connections there. So that's the point of that. So William, if you can walk this out, 25 feet roughly.
Right there.
Right there? All right, so we're gonna orient this with the green stripe straight up in the air, and that's gonna be our orientation for our thing here. So you grab their bit that's set up for your heads, and you drill in the green stripe there. So just for clarification, I'm gonna show it real quick so you can see outside the bucket here. So this is your drill hole, and that pilot stopper here is going to stop you so that you're right here and you have this size of a hole that's going to marry up with the gasket and the bottom on your sprinkler head right there. So the cradle is going to sit over it right there. So that's your cradle nesting right there. So we're going to put it inside the bucket again here, the Kline pod, and we're going to get the cradle to sit right here. And then I'm gonna make sure I feel it positively lock into place with my hand first, so I can feel that the cradle is nested on the right way. And then we're gonna take those bolts and we're gonna bolt it down. So they send with the kit your adapter for your drill gun and the 13mm deep socket set here. If you want to hook it to your drill gun, you can just hook it to their drill gun and do it on an extension, your own extension, or you can just keep it on your actual socket head there as the extension. So get these hands started first so you don't strip them. You only got to put on 2 nuts per head here, so just take the time, do it right, make sure they don't get stripped out. Like I said, make sure your orientation kind of stays the right way there with your pipe, which should kind of start to nest in place. You put your head, your sprinkler head just out of the way there, and then just go back and forth with them to make sure that you're tensioning them evenly. So all right, that's pretty snug there. And you can just see the bottom construction. They actually have a U-bolt that's going up and through the bottom there. So that's how that's holding all that plastic together there. It's just a U-bolt up and through the bottom there. So that is a head installed on a pod. And then the next pod we'll do on our system, we're gonna do 50 feet from the center of the head to the next pod, center of the head. And that will allow for the overthrow of the coverage of the sprinkler. So our first pod, like we said, is 25 feet off the end. That way when you marry the two together, you have 50 feet spread. We're gonna measure off of here, center of the sprinkler to the other center of the sprinkler, and that's gonna be 50 feet now between each of these. All right, 50-foot mark is right there. So I'm gonna grab my head with the guard on it here, get my green pipe right through the center of it here. There's a clean hole. And like I said, the easiest thing to do is keep this with each of the pods and just move them along there. So we're gonna bring it back over, get our bolts that we set aside here, our nuts, and get this cradle in place here now. So you just repeat that process with your pods 50 feet apart, whatever your desired spacing is. Once again, when you talk to Kine, they have their engineers or specialists that will map out your property. They'll let you know how many pods you need for it, for how much you're going to be moving it, and give you the layout that you're going to be using for your property. So. Push. Wait. All right, so at your towing end, you're gonna have a couple fittings here that they send you. You're gonna have the poly pipe to threaded pipe connection, and that you're gonna either bang on here, push on here, or use a mallet to get on here, because you wanna get it up and into here to where you can thread it down and get it, so you wanna make sure it's threaded all the way this way first, and then you'll push it in. So, all right, so William just walked and oriented the line to make sure it was all upright, which is not as important at this end, but, and then you push this on all the way, you seal this down, and you get a wrench on there here. So, and then here, we're gonna do the actual quick connect on it here. In that, we're gonna throw some quick tough tape around it that they send with it. the manufacturers at Kine. So and you can use a adjustable pipe wrench, a big pair of channel locks, or for now we're just going to get this on and in place, hand tightened. And then we're going to have this connection at this end, and this is going to be your quick connect and then your actual tow rope area here. So for this, we're going to throw the Teff tape on this here for the towing end. And once again, this is just so it's got a seal so it stays together, all that good stuff. There we go. And we'll throw this end on. If you can hold that, please. All right, some Teff tape there. And like I said, we'll go back and we'll tighten these all down with an adjustable wrench. But it's nice to kind of get all your fittings dry fitted so they're not falling around the pasture. So that's gonna go on here. It's gonna quick link onto here. And then we're gonna do the rope attachment, which is your tow rope. And this is just a simple push through and thread it back to itself through the base here. Keep it all together there. And then that's your tow rope for moving the whole system around the pasture with your body, your UTV, your ATV, your tractor, whatever you got to pull it around with. It's a system, like I said, it's a little bit of work by hand, but for those of us who are homesteading and homesteading on a budget, you can break the system down into the 4s and drag them around. You can keep them as a system of 8. You can do any combination thereof. Like I said, the engineers will go through whether you need a 3-pod, a 4-pod, a 5-pod, or you put multiple pod systems together to make your setup. We've got 7 acres of pasture here specifically, and we can break our watering into 4 zones. So we have basically 4 quadrants that we can water at one time with our 8-pod system. And essentially we move that pod system about 4 times in each of those zones or those quadrants, and we're watering the entire area. So once we get it into a quadrant or a half of the pasture, we can move it from one quadrant to the next pretty easily, and then just swing it around and move it throughout our pasture as well. So it's super nice to have solutions for your property that are portable, that are adaptable, that are flexible. Like I said, you can use these for your pasture, your orchard space, new plantings, new seedings, high tunnel, a garden space. There's just a ton of applications when you don't have something that's affixed to a mounted position on your property that you can move it around, especially when you're first starting off with homesteading. You get one of these smaller kits and then you build onto it as you have more finances to do it in a debt-free way. You know that we're big here at Heartway Farms about doing things as best we can with some ingenuity and some flexibility. To learn more about the Kine irrigation system by Softrain, check out the link below.